Hallo liebe Pflanzenfreunde und ein ganz herzliches Willkommen hier auf meinem Kanal. Mein Name ist Pascal und willkommen zu diesem neuen Video. Auf der letzten Maibotanica in Houten in den Niederlanden war ein ganz besonderer Züchter zu Gast, nämlich Dr. Jeff Block aus Miami. Ihr kennt ihn vielleicht, er ist nämlich der Züchter der Anthurium Michel, deswegen steht da immer Doc Block drauf und er hat dort eine Präsentation abgehalten, einen kleinen Vortrag. Ich hatte das Glück und auch die Ehre, mich ganze 45 Minuten mit ihm privat zu unterhalten. Und das war wirklich spannend und ziemlich inspirierend. Und ich habe dann auch zu ihm gesagt, Mensch, das war alles so cool. Hätten Sie nicht Lust auf ein kleines Interview? 10 Minuten. Ich habe die Kamera dabei, ich habe Mikrofon dabei, let's go. Und er meinte, ja klar. Und aus 10 Minuten wurden sogar 15 Minuten. Und das werdet ihr jetzt hier sehen. Wichtig ist, das Interview ist komplett auf Englisch, aber ich habe das komplett in Deutsch untertitelt. Und ich wünsche euch ganz, ganz viel Freude. So, first of all, thank you for joining me. It's very nice to have you here. I feel very honored to do this little interview. We had a chat before, so maybe you can tell the viewer who you are.
Hi, well, thanks, Pascal. I'm Jeff Block. I'm actually a physician botanist, and I've been invited here to the Netherlands to give a talk about not simply anthuriums, but about plants in general.
Yeah, we can see it that you're very into plants because you have your own botanical garden in Miami in Florida, which is very nice. But you are very, very famous here in Europe or Germany about anthurium, about the velvet anthuriums. So maybe we can talk about that. Can you explain how you get to the velvet anthuriums? Because you already said before about the 5 senses about the plants. When you created the hybrid, the Anthurium Michel, the Zara, can you take us through the process? Do you have like a clear vision in mind about the colors, or do you cross anthuriums? Can you tell me about the Anthurium Michel or Zara, like about that?
Well, those are specific names of hybrids that I actually wanted to honor certain people who were named that way. My wife is Michelle. Zara is a friend's daughter who was there when I was looking at a different plant. Michelle versus Zara versus any of the other names are all from a subset of anthuriums called, as you mentioned, velvet-leafed anthuriums, different than a bird's nest anthurium. And although I've worked with many, many plants for many years, the velvet-leafed anthuriums fascinated me for 40 years. And it was because of really 2 or 3 things. First was that although they're called velvet-leafed anthuriums, when I started, just about everything was green. Some had silver veins, but green was really what was prevailing. And so the first plants that I acquired that had a hint of purple, for instance, which is what Michel would be known for, its new leaf, were things that, yes, there's a vision, but at that point I just wanted to learn how to grow it. And then with trying to learn how to grow it, produce seeds, and in those seeds represent in a hybrid not just one parent plant or the other, but all the ancestry that those plants have, which is why you don't look just like your brother or your sister. The plants start to come out that way also. And so through several generations, though, of what would be bad for people, inbreeding, in this case, it's looking to breed the plant not simply for what it looks like, but selecting also for vigor. How healthy, how quickly does the plant grow? How easily does the seed germinate? These are all little things that a breeder would not want to waste time on slow things or things that didn't look like a vision you mentioned. So while a vision may be part of it, I found that once I was able to refine what eventually became Michel, focusing on that darker purple, the other thing that fascinated me about anthuriums in general were the fact that unlike a flowering plant where the flower perishes and then you throw it away or wait a whole year for it to reflower, these plants, for their color expression, the flowers, they're actually called candle flowers in the Chinese world because it resembles a candle.
Yeah, sure.
These would produce color with each new emerging leaf that eventually changed to green. But if you miss the particular deep purple or a lavender stage you might like in mid-development, you don't have to wait another year till a flowering cycle happens. Wait until the next leaf. So I found that the fact that their color expression is very dynamic, repeating over and over with each new leaf's progression, was another thing that I liked about it. Green velvet is pretty, but as we know, purple velvet or red velvet can be regal. And so when I look at the plants today, or I think part of their popularity is their expression of color and vigor, because very few people are going to wait with many of the original things I started to work with, which could take 3 to 5 years from a concept to seeds to expression in the offspring. Can speed that up now to a year or two with good horticulture and the selected genetics that ensure that vigor in the plant. So if that gives you a little background for why I was kind of set with anthuriums, it's one of many, many plant families that I grow. But until the last few years, nobody was offering to want to know more about the plants that I grew, from palms, or bromeliads was a plant that I started with many years ago, and certainly ferns and other aroids. But the anthuriums seem to have not just my imagination, but a big following throughout the world now.
Yeah.
And it's an honor to be associated with bringing colors and vigor to that plant family.
Yeah, it is a beautiful plant. It really is. Like the vibrant red, it's a really amazing plant. You talked about the hybrids that you started with because it's fun. And it is really fun. I also have my own hybrids. I didn't name it, but I crossed the Anthurium luxurians with the Forgetii. It's a nice cross. I have my own now, so I can imagine why it's so fun. Do you remember how many hybrids you created in the past years? Like, well, was it like 20 or 30 or hundreds?
No, I have a list going back only to 2020 with absolute, or 2019, with absolute documentation. And any cross is going to be considered a hybrid unless it's a plant crossed on itself, which would be called a self-cross.
Yeah.
And even there you'll find expression of ancestral plants that led to it. But no, not 20 or so. Since 2019, probably closer to 500.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah.
And not all of them are winners. So.
Yeah, but not winners, but beautiful. Velvety anthuriums are beautiful. That's what I mean.
Beauty's in the eye of the beholder. So I find what one person might find attractive, maybe I don't find as appealing, and vice versa.
Yeah, but for example, the Black Widow there, it's the shape also, what's very interesting. Do you have more like, you go by the color or by the shape or a mix, or do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. There's a need to have a combination of size of the leaf. Not everybody's kitchen windowsill can support a Anthurium regale, which can be 3 and 4 feet. So size, the shape of the leaf, the colors of the emerging leaf, and the vein patterns are all independent variables, and combinations of those help. You mentioned Black Widow. Black Widow is an expression of what I found to be a very recessive genetics, such that when I tried to hybridize that, I did not get many things that looked like the veins. The veins of Black Widow are distinct in that there are very few lateral branches. So the elongated vertical veins are the ones that actually give an impression that it looks a little like a spider. My kids, when they saw it, they said, "Oh, that looks like the Spider-Man. Let's call it Spider-Man." We decided on Black Widow. It seemed a little sexier.
So this is a very, very interesting look into the life. For the last question, how long does it take to create a hybrid where you said, that's the one? Like the Anthurium Michelle or Zara. Like, how long did it take, the whole process from the first hybrid to, let's say, yeah, that's it?
Well, you would try to have something develop that is unique,
yeah,
in terms of its look. Some expression of a feature, as I said with Black Widow being a recessive feature, not many of the offspring coming out looking like that. So that takes many generations to try to focus on the vein pattern that's unique there. Other expressions may be more dominant in the genetics, maybe some colors too. So I have a plant called Doc Block Red Crystal, which is a red expression compared to Michelle, which is violet or purple. And they're always things that I'm refining. So I don't always know an exact moment that something is, I guess what you're inferring, is what's marketable. I separate myself from not growing the plants to a commercial quantity or selling them. So I don't like selling plants personally, but I have worked with very good growers and vendors who are reputable, who represent my hybrids, who understand why they're unique and distinct, and for that matter, protected. And it's
licensed, right? Like the
yes,
anthuriums are completely licensed.
Exactly. So I'm not here to license 500 different hybrids.
No. That's
But if I were to come up with a collection per se, 8, 10, maybe at most 12 plants, which are all obviously distinct, that would be what I would like to focus on, such that eventually just those plants could represent a portfolio or a collection. I don't have enough room to grow many more things than I have now, and everything is an issue of space. So I don't care if you live in a 1-bedroom apartment and have a beautiful Mylar tent, or you live in a 100-acre ranch. If your goal is to collect, you're going to run out of space. So if you understand that overcrowding, no matter where you're growing things, is unhealthy, just like with people. You put too many people in one location, diseases happen. So I try to limit what I do to the space I have to work in, and then rely on professional growers and vendors to share it with the rest of the world, which is how we found each other.
Yeah, exactly. We talked a lot about the past. One last question. What can we expect from you the next years? Do you have like a special, maybe anthurium, maybe another plant, another hybrid, another plant prepared for us here in Europe?
Well, yes and no. I'm going to say that my next birthday I will be 70 years old. So I'm not looking to do this for another 10 years like this. I have kids who are just 20. I want to enjoy them. I want to enjoy other years with different intellectual challenges. So my company name is actually Nurturing Nature. And it's not Anthuriums by Doc Block, which is a commercial name just for anthuriums. What I'd like to be doing a year or so from now is not sweating in Miami's hot, humid, tropical environments and trying to breed more hybrids. I think there's enough out there to propagate just those and get them in the market. By this time next year, I may also be able to develop an interest hybridizing, but with the other branch of Nurturing Nature, which doesn't deal with tropical ornamental plants, but in real life, I'm a physician botanist with also a knowledge and interest in botanical medicines. So about a year from now in Miami, I expect that I will be able to legally hybridize cannabis into something far more therapeutic than what's out there today. Under cannabis's prohibition in the United States, the plant has changed quite unnaturally to something that's concentrated and focused on that chemical that's intoxicating. It's called Delta-9 THC, and along with hybridizing that to be featured, the other recessive genetics of many other cannabinoids, they're called, other chemicals, including one called CBD or cannabidiol, have generally been lost from the genome.
I know.
I would love to restore, maybe almost like an heirloom plant would be rediscovered, because I think that with 6,000 years of documented use by human beings, it probably doesn't play too unfavorably with our genes or us with theirs, or one or the other of us might be extinct by now. So to find therapeutics in plant-based medicines, for me, is more of an intellectual challenge, not selecting for what's called phenotype or what it looks like, but for what is called the chemotype. What active chemicals are there? How do they work with our body's receptors? And is it something that's healthy for someone or not healthy? And to understand that the current plants that are out there in many respects may not be healthy, because they've lost their natural balance that survived with human cultivation for millennia. So if that's an interest for some people to know about what I'll be doing next, it looks like that's of a different challenge, but it takes me in a different direction suitable for a physician botanist. And think about it this way to conclude.
Yeah.
In prehistoric times, all healers, before there were doctors, had to be very good in sustaining plants, or they would have lost their formulary and not be regarded as a good healer nor plantsman or woman. So there's a historical precedent that says physicians can be botanists and perhaps know life forms from not only people, but plants as well. And that's what I would hope to do within the next year or two.
That's very cool. Thank you so much for your time.
My
I really
pleasure,
enjoyed
Pascal.
that. Really.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Thank you.